Hi, welcome to Happier Ladies, a podcast where we discuss all things related to the Happier and Happier in Hollywood podcasts.
We're sisters
And super fans
who can't get enough happier.
So we created our own podcast to keep the conversation going.
I'm Malika Amandi, a SoCal native living in Western Massachusetts, a new mom, and an entrepreneur. I'm here with my sister, Azizi Williams.
That's me. I live and work in the LA area. I'm a not-so-new mom, and I'm an education professional in the independent school world. In this episode, we'll talk about a twist on gratitude journaling, and then we catch up about a show we both saw. Malika, how is spring going on your side of the world?
Spring is beautiful. It's really nice to see things blooming and remember the flowers that are in the yard and trees. It's still a little chilly, I'll be honest, but I am excited thinking about the backyard, bringing it back to life. Not that it was ever really vibrant, but, taking the next step from last summer. We're finally getting a new fence.
Yay.
Which will be good to have it be more secure for Kermit. So that's a whole process. I'm thinking about creating some kind of a mud kitchen for Indigo, like an area where he can play in the mud. I guess it's just a fancy name for a sandbox with like pots and pans.
It's a kitchen area for kids with dirt outside and water for the mud. But they're calling it mud kitchens. Like, is this something you can look up on Pinterest?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? I was just kidding.
No, some of them are quite fancy.
Wow.
I don't aspire to that. I'm inspired because one of Indigo's childcare providers, the program is mostly outdoors. It's a home daycare, but a big emphasis on nature. And so they have this really cool outdoor setup where they have a mud kitchen. I mean, they spend all day out there, but it just feels like, oh, wouldn't that be great if the backyard had more to offer for activities? I mean, kids will find anything to do. There's grass and found a slide on the curb. There's a few things.
My favorite is the car that he just pushes himself backwards in. He finds lots to do, but this will add a whole new element and dimension. So I'm glad that the weather's warmed up enough for you to get to do this activity and that you're going to get a new fence. That's exciting.
Yeah. Do you have anything on your spring bucket list?
It's funny because, the weather doesn't change that much out here. We are always talking about that, but it is getting warmer and I want to turn on the fire pit and maybe dine outside. I might have to take a trip to a home store and get some new cushions, like some colorful things to put outside to kind of entice me. And actually, Grayson sent me this beautiful sunflower that he's growing in our backyard that I have not yet gone to see. It's in my backyard, but it's in a place that I don't usually go.
Are you kidding me? He had to send you a photo of it?
He sent me a photo of look at my sunflower. I was like, oh, it's so beautiful. That's happening in our backyard. Maybe I should go take a look at it. So on my spring bucket list is to go out to Grayson's garden and enjoy the flowers that he's planted. So what happened on Happier this week?
On Happier, episode 478, Liz and Gretchen discuss the pleasure of reading material that teaches you how things work. They share a strategy to make driving more engaging, and they pose questions about the quality of your sleep. I really enjoyed their talk about books that teach you how things work. There were a lot of synapses firing for me, particularly around podcasts or documentaries that I had seen. I guess I'm not as much of a reader as they are, but I think it is fascinating to just be plunged into a world that you don't know anything about and to have it broken down to you, I think is really exciting. There was an Ologies episode, which is a podcast that I enjoy. And actually, I think Sarah has talked about Ologies on Happier in Hollywood as one of her recommendations. But there was an episode all about garbage. I learned so much about garbage and recycling and what actually happens to our recycling. The person being interviewed in the episode is like a professor of discardology at NYU.
Wow.
As a part of her research, she actually became a garbage collector in New York and went through the exams and everything to drive the truck. And she really understands it inside and out. And it's just so fascinating to get a front row seat to something that you would otherwise never maybe understand.
Wow. When you break it down, it's about systems and understanding the systems that are at play that you don't usually think about
Mhm.
or get to know about. It's interesting because I don't think this is a genre that I gravitate towards typically. I was thinking about this. What would I want to learn more about? I think I want to learn more about buying a car, all the systems that go into purchasing a car, because there's so many things happening
Mhm.
and there's so many people involved and and then there's people that you don't see. And I might be interested in reading a book about that. Is there anything that you would want to know more about?
There's the whole Pantone color of the year, which is very mysterious.
Hmm.
I'm just curious about that. Like, what goes into that decision? Who are the people who weigh in? What are they looking at or considering? Are they just picking a color that they like in the moment, or is there something leading up to it? It feels very much like there's a rationale behind it. I don't know if there actually is.
I'm sure there is.
Of course there is, but it's so cloaked, and I would love to see a tell all about that whole process.
They have so much power when you think about it. Like, I feel like I am always vaguely aware of what the color of the year is. And I agree. I would like to know more about that. It does seem mysterious. I did buy a book. I have a book on my bookshelf that's called How Money Works.
Okay.
It's about all the systems related to money and credit and interest and taxes, but I have not read it. But it is on my shelf. So maybe I should start with that book.
Well, I think the reason I like the podcast T-Boy, the best one yet,
Right. Yeah.
is because they do go into the way kind of money and business works, and
Yeah.
it's short bites, but it's a world that I probably wouldn't on my own necessarily investigate some of the things, and but I always feel really edified after listening to it, and it's fun to be able to talk about those things.
I'm constantly talking about the things that come up on that podcast, and it's because it's a story. I'm listening to Outlive now, Malika.
Oh, yes.
I've been influenced by Liz and Sarah and Gretchen, and it's this book about the science and art of living a longer, happier life. And oh my goodness, I think I'm on chapter 3, but it's in the weeds about molecules and cells, and
Mm.
it's real heavy on the science part of it. And I was just thinking, if he could make this part a story also, I think I would be more engaged. When things get very technical, it can get harder to read.
It's funny, you gave that book to Norm for Christmas.
And he just read right through it, right?
Yeah, he's a fast reader, and he likes those kind of books. He loves the science weeds.
Yes, it's reminding me of the book Thinking Fast and Slow, that is all about how the human brain is wired to make quick decisions and how that leads to bias and other, flaws. And I want to know. I really want to know.
Mm.
And the science part, it just loses me. So anyway, that's where it can be difficult to read a book about how things work if it gets very technical.
And that, I think, speaks to the authors, and kind of writing a book for anybody to understand is really incredibly skillful, right? To
That's
write
right.
about something super technical in a way that someone who knows nothing about the subject will feel like they got in at the ground floor.
I'm excited about the grocery store book that they mentioned. I don't remember the name of it. I would want to try that book. It seems like it'd probably be very heavy on people and choices and human behavior and that kind of thing. So maybe I'll put that in my queue.
Azizi, what happened on Happier in Hollywood?
On Happier in Hollywood, episode 362, Sarah and Liz discuss a way of reframing the challenging dynamics of new opportunities and sudden changes while working in Hollywood. They dig into listeners' thoughts about true fun, and they also share how to look more polished with a special cashmere sweater and a blow dryer brush.
Well, this episode made me think about some of the challenges of being an entrepreneur
Hmm.
and my experience when I was doing professional development coaching. And I had private clients, but I was also trying to get contracts with companies. And it felt like feast or famine. And you
Hmm.
just had no idea how the year would go. Which would it be this year? And there were contracts that I got that were literally out of the blue. Somebody contacting me through LinkedIn who I had no connection to. And that led to, a really big multiple year thing. And then other things that felt like they were going to be a shoe in would just fall apart. I could definitely relate to what they were saying. And I think any industry where you are depending on somebody else's subjective decision making can feel this way.
Yeah, that sounds super stressful. I would not make it in that industry at all. How did you do that?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm taking a break,
Right.
so I'm
That's
not
right.
there
That's also
now.
true. Yeah.
I like how they talked about the reality of like, well, we must like it because we're still doing it, you know?
Right.
I think when you do get that opportunity, it's a rush. Somebody believes in you or the stars align to do a thing, and then that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So I think it is a little bit like gambling, but then you play the long game and you're just
Mhm.
in it. And
Mhm.
so over a career, you can do really well.
Hmm.
But it is a different way of life.
I think because I'm one who really craves stability and predictability, that's what I love about working in schools. It's like, if you tell me the month,
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's happening. Does not change from month to month, from week to week. However, within each day, there are things that happen that are unexpected. And there are times when you have to change course, or, there is the disappointment around admissions, or there are those aspects, but it's not to the degree
Yeah.
that I think you had to deal with, or, Sarah and Liz had to deal with. Also, I have a blow dryer brush. I can co-sign. Listen, Sarah and I are aligned. We like the same things.
You really
We
are.
really are. Like, there's not a product that she has mentioned that I either don't want or already have. The blow dryer brush is a game changer. It really does make it easier. However, I will say I had one that I loved, and actually it was a gift from my older daughter, and she took it to college, so I don't have it. And I went and bought another one, and not as good. Liz was asking
Mm.
Sarah about the bristles and if they will get through thick hair. And this one doesn't have, the bristles aren't as long and good for thick hair. So I'm learning about the blow dryer brushes and what makes a good one, but I would definitely recommend it.
Do you feel like you have anything like the blow dryer brush or some other tool that makes you feel instantly polished?
Well, for me, the thing that makes me feel instantly polished is lipstick. I think this is such a great question
Mm.
because I don't wear much makeup at all. We've talked about this before, but I will put on lipstick and then I feel like I'm ready to go. Like, it's for some reason in my head,
Mm.
now I'm ready. Now I'm dressed. That's all I need. So I play around a lot with that, different colors and brands and things like that. What about you? What makes you feel polished?
I don't know.
Oh,
I know. I need something.
say more.
I have this monthly style goals for 24 for 24. So I think this is something that I need to investigate. I do know that when I put on earrings and a necklace, that I feel like I'm raising things a level, even if it's not like a statement necklace. I don't often wear necklaces, so that somehow feels a little bit polished, but I don't know if it actually is. I don't have the lipstick superpower. I think
Huh.
yes, I'm going to ruminate on this.
What makes you feel polished? Let's throw that out to our listeners. I'm curious what other people would say about this also. We
Yeah.
could get some good suggestions.
I definitely think having a good hairstyle, that's one of the reasons I like braids,
Yeah.
especially when they're
Well.
fresh. I mean, I think most people would agree with that, right? If you get your hair done, that you feel polished
Yes.
in that new hair
For
phase.
about 2 days.
So-
Right? Like, no, but getting your hair done absolutely boosts your mood and makes you feel polished. I would also add getting my eyebrows done makes me feel polished. That's like
Yeah.
something that I can do. And I know for a little while it's going to make me feel like I'm more put together, even though it's so minor and it's so small, but I feel like it makes a big impact. So yeah, I think this is something we should revisit. So let's take a break. And when we get back, Malika is going to share a simple strategy that will make you happier.
Azizi, how's your dinner game these days?
Well, Malika, I used to struggle with what to cook for dinner.
You're cooking now?
Okay. Actually, my husband used to struggle with what to make for dinner. I mean, meal planning, grocery lists, yuck. But then we found Prep Dish. It's a weekly meal planning service that tells you exactly what to cook. And now they've partnered with Instacart, so your grocery list becomes a ready-to-go online cart.
Oh, what's in your cart, Azizi?
All of the Prep Dish ingredients, plus I can add energy drinks, chili crisp, lipstick, whatever, and check out in just a few clicks. Shopping online is so fun. The meals are family-friendly, healthy, and super easy to prep. Dinner is easy to make, and now we look forward to new tasty meals.
Prep Dish is offering our listeners 2 weeks free. Just head to prepdish.com/happierladies to sign up. Again, that's prepdish.com/happierladies.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
And now it's time for Shortcut to Happy, where we share a simple strategy that will make you happier. I want to share a practice called To Done and Thank You. I started doing this several years ago and found that it's great for recentering myself when I feel overwhelmed or unmotivated, especially in the realm of kind of productivity.
I have never heard about this before. What is To Done and Thank You? I'm so curious.
It is an evolution of Gretchen's to-do list and a gratitude list. So Gretchen talks about a to-do list in Happier episode 134, and it's come up again many times over the years. It's a list of things that you've already done. So the idea is that by seeing what you've done written down, you can feel a sense of pride and momentum. It's also just a good reality check because sometimes it's easy to get in your own head and be self-critical and completely miss your own efforts. So when I make a to-done list, I like to kind of free write for a good minute or two and just write everything that I've done recently that's net positive. So usually I'm thinking about in the course of a day, like this is a really good practice when you're at that point in the day and you're like, oh my gosh, where is the day gone? I haven't done anything. This is a good, like, well, let's just see about that. I'll put down like I took a shower and then I do it like a checkbox next to that and I check the box and then I also cross off the words and that feels really satisfying. If you can't think of anything that you've done, just lower the bar and keep lowering the bar until you can write something down and then you'll start to think of more things.
Wow. Okay. So what is the difference between a to-do list and a to-done list?
I actually don't think there is a difference. Whatever you prefer to say is fine, to done or to da.
So where does thank you come in?
Okay. So when I do this list, I draw a line down the middle of the page. And on the left side, I do the to done list. And on the right side, I do a gratitude list. The gratitude portion is really anything like people that I've interacted with or feel grateful for, weather, tasty food, nice moments I had that day. And I feel like doing these two things side by side gives me a really wholesome perspective. So I'm acknowledging myself and my efforts, and I'm kind of recognizing the things that I notice that are out of my control, but are positive or that I feel grateful for. The whole thing, doing the to-done list and the thank you list, can take just a few minutes, but it always leaves me feeling much better than when I started. And it's a little bit different than just doing the gratitude list, which I know a lot of people do and get something from that. But I think it's the combination of the two that feels really complete.
Well, this sounds lovely. I think it's like on the to-done list, you are in a way acknowledging yourself for the things that you've done and recognizing yourself. It's a form of gratitude for yourself and what you do. And then on the other side, gratitude for everything else, all the other things that, that are occurring or that you noticed in your life. So I think that's an interesting idea to put them side by side or to do one after the other. The to-done list, it also made me think about a Kanban board. Have you done that before?
I know it as like an organization system or to-do lists where you move things along.
Right. So you make a list of 3 things to do, doing, and done. If you put them on stickies, you can move tasks over as they are changing categories. It's a nice thing to do with a group to acknowledge, let's say at this point in the year, all the things that we've done and are doing. And then, we have these things to do, but there's something so gratifying about just looking at it, visually looking at what you've done. You could do this for the day, your to-done list, but you could also do it for the year or for the week as a way of reflection. I love that. It's also a good way to write 24 for 24.
Yeah, I'm a big journaler, so I like to journal in sentences, but when my bandwidth is low, making a list is really good instead.
When all else fails, just do bullet points. We're back with Let's Catch Up, where we share something that we've been thinking about lately. And today we're going to catch up finally about the greatest night in pop. This was a suggestion that Liz gave. She watched it. She was so enthusiastic about it. And they talked about it in More Happier. So I was motivated to watch it, loved it immediately, got all the reasons why Liz was excited about it. And Malika, now you finally saw the show.
Yes. By way of reminder, The Greatest Night in Pop is a documentary on Netflix. It chronicles the making of the single We Are the World, which came out in the 80s and was a collaboration between many different pop stars to raise money for Africa.
What were your key takeaways, Malika?
So I was primed to focus on Quincy Jones based on what Liz and Gretchen were talking about. But the real star who emerged for me was Lionel Richie. I could not believe how involved he was in this project. So he co-wrote the music with Michael Jackson. He was also very instrumental in wrangling the other stars that were involved. On the actual day of the recording, he was the host of the American Music Awards. So he had to MC that, and he had 2 performances, and he won more than one award. It was like a big day for him. And then he was like the leader for this whole recording that happened overnight. And he had to convince Cyndi Lauper to do it. She was on the fence. She decided she wasn't going to do it. And he's like talking to her on the side off stage, like, you really want to do this, Cyndi. It was very much like class president vibes to me. He was one of the singers, and he was also having to corral his peers. And what amazed me is that from the beginning to the end, his energy was consistently positive and radiating. I'm sure there was a lot of adrenaline in there, but I was blown away by his stamina. And I just felt like, okay, this is my new persona. When I have to do more than 2 events in a day, I'm going to summon my inner Lionel Richie and just smile and show up and be gracious because I was really impressed by his attitude.
You should create a playlist, like a Lionel Richie playlist for when you have to get through more than 2 events in a day.
What was one of your takeaways?
For me, it was like seeing your favorite music idols on their first day of middle school. So sort of, playing off your class president metaphor. They were so awkward when they were around each other. And some of them were a little giddy. They were a little nervous. They were anxious because, of course, the people in the room were each other's idols. It's something you don't see. You don't get to see celebrities at that level be so vulnerable. Another reason why I love this documentary is it showed the process from idea to execution and the chaos of getting people to do the same thing on the same page. Just that space in between is the space that I love. That's the creative tension of how are we going to aspire to this idea that we have when there's no roadmap. It's not been done before. It seems impossible. There are so many different places where they could have given up or decided not to do it, but they persisted and this amazing product came out of it.
I think that the idea to execution, like what was interesting about that was the timeline of the AMAs and how that forced them to deliver on a certain date, because it was clear that that was the only way they were going to get all these musicians in the same spot.
Yeah.
Often having some external reality like that makes things come together, because prior to that, Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie, they were like tossing ideas around. They were kind of writing the song, but it was not moving anywhere. And then it was like, oh, you've got to have this ready by, 10 days from now.
Yeah.
And so things had to crystallize. There was definitely like a buzz of this thing is going to pass us by if we don't seize this opportunity. And so that forced everybody to step up and meet the occasion.
It's the power of a deadline.
Totally.
Time pressure can, result in wildly creative things.
A couple other things stood out to me. One was just how important the transitions were. And maybe Liz and Gretchen talked about this in terms of Quincy Jones managing the flow of the event. They would have this moment where everybody was singing and they would get what they needed. And then it was just like the room would fall apart once they stopped recording. There was a time when I was doing like arts education for kindergartners. And that was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. It took so much thinking through every little transition, because if you lose a group of kindergartners, it's really uphill. A 45-minute class has got to be scripted.
Yes. You should plan for an hour of material
Exactly.
and have a plan B, C, and D.
And they talked about it at one point. I think Lionel said, Lionel, like we're on a first name basis.
Lionel. Yeah.
He was responsible for handling the troublemakers, like that was going to be his role. And there's certain musicians, Stevie Wonder was one of them, who's like always going to bring up an alternative thing and riff on an idea. How do you keep those people in check when you've got a thing to do by a certain time? It was really challenging.
Right. And while you're gracious and appreciative of their
Yeah.
time and you can't lose it or get angry, they showed so much grace even while trying to do that difficult task. So another thing for me that came up was the power of saying yes to something when someone asks you to join.
Yes.
And even sometimes when you don't have all the information, you don't have all the details, you maybe have never done this before, you've never heard of it before, but it does pay off to just say yes sometimes to an idea because you never know what can come of it. And that was affirming for me, who says yes to a lot of things. That's sort of my go-to, is to say yes to things for this reason, because sometimes beautiful things come out of it. That's just a reminder to all of us to sometimes take a leap and try something new.
That's true. The final takeaway I'll share is that many of the artists had this sense that they did not belong in the room, or that, as you shared, they were here and their idols were around them. And it was interesting just to see that kind of imposterism or imposter phenomena coming through with these people who had topped the charts and were clearly chosen for a reason, and celebrities. And you got to see them grappling with, oh, can I even hit this note? Feeling awkward or unsure about the part that they had. Could they do it well? Everybody was going to be watching them while they were singing. It wasn't like closed recording session. It just showed kind of what a human response that is. No matter what level you're at, that grappling with that idea of, do I belong here? It's such a human reality.
Absolutely. And it seemed like most of the people had that feeling, except I'd say Stevie Wonder.
True.
There were a few people who were just like, I belong here, and that was fun to see also. I loved this genre. This connects to what we talked about earlier about becoming a minor expert or learning about how things work. Do you have any other recommendations or shows that you think could share behind the scenes of a major cultural event?
Yes, there's two that come to mind. One is the Netflix series 7 Days Out. It's 6 episodes, and each episode focuses on a very large scale event looking at 7 days out. What happens in the 7 days leading up to the Kentucky Derby or the Westminster Dog Show or a NASA launch. It's just so fascinating because you really get to see who are the key players and the stakes that go into pulling off something like that. And it really puts you right there. It's very fun to watch. The other show that comes up is called Pick of the Litter, and I think it was on Disney Plus. It might be on Netflix now. It follows the process of what it takes for a dog to become a seeing eye dog, from their puppy days to being like trained by volunteer families, and then they have to go through all these different tests, and then they get moved to work with like a dog trainer. And I mean, we kind of take it for granted when you see a dog, like a service dog working, that they just are good at what they do, but just all of the little steps that go into training a dog for that, and the amount of people and resources, it's really fascinating. And you see some dogs don't make it. They get career changed.
That would be so sad though. Would you cry if they didn't make it? You're rooting for this dog and then it fails.
It is a little sad, but it's also like, they're an amazing dog that's going to make a family like very happy. They're a great pet. They're just not cut out for this very narrow thing that you can't take any chances with, because literally somebody's life is depending on them.
Right.
Underscoring Liz and Gretchen's point, it really gives you an appreciation for these different aspects of life to get to see behind the scenes. What shows are you thinking of?
There are these series on Netflix called like The Movies That Made Us, The Toys That Made Us. On Disney Plus, there's one called The Rides That Made Us, and it's behind the scenes of a specific movie. I remember watching one about Elf and how it was created, the idea, the concept, the legal dramas they had, how the actors interacted with each other. And it was similar, and you get a jolt in knowing more about this that you love.
Yeah.
So let us know your thoughts about The Greatest Night in Pop, and what other shows would you recommend that are in this space?
All right, let's take a break. And when we return, we will share our peaks and valleys.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
We are back with peaks and valleys, because in life, there are always peaks and valleys. Azizi, you're up first with a peak this week.
My peak this week is our Aunt Charlene. She is turning 80 this week, and I'm just so much in awe of her. She is this independent woman. She's been single. She doesn't have kids, but she gets to do all these fun things with her time. She stays in shape. She walks everywhere. She, participates in the church choir and has this active social life. She has been active at the senior center. And Malika, I had a conversation with her last week where she told me she was elected president of the senior events committee.
What?
And so now I know it's like, you go on Charlene. She gets to help them think about their field trips and where they want to go at her senior club. I keep saying when I am 80, I want to be like Aunt Charlene. And she's having a birthday party this weekend. So that's my peak. I'm happy for her. What's your valley, Malika?
So my valley is that I'm feeling out of touch with my yogi year. I have kind of slipped out of my daily practice. So I need to get to a class this week or do a video, just kind of find my way back onto that track. I know it's a journey. I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but I'm hoping by expressing the valley that I can recalibrate to get in touch with that. And I think I feel it physically too.
You can do it, Malika. I believe that you can win. I believe
that
you can win.
I believe that I can win. Thank you.
Put it on your calendar. Schedule it.
Yes. Well, that brings us to the end. Azizi, let's leave on a happier thought. What are you going to try this week?
I think I'm going to try that to done gratitude. Thank you method that you spoke about. I feel like I can use that right now.
Great.
What about you, Malika?
I'm going to think about my style and the tools that I have that make me feel polished.
Good.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like us, rate, review, and tell a friend. And don't forget to follow us.
Send us a message at happierladies@gmail.com and tell us something you liked about Happier and Happier in Hollywood this week.
Our show was edited by Magnus Bjorgum, and our theme music was created by Wyatt Muncie.
And we also want to give a special shout out to Gretchen Rubin, Liz Kraft, and Sarah Fain for inspiring our conversation each week.
You can find us on Instagram at happierladies and on the web at happierladies.com, where you can find our show notes. All right, Azizi, have a happier week.
Have a happier week, Malika.
Bye.
Bye.
You make it sound like you live on an estate, like
It's literally around the corner. That's how little I go out into my backyard.
It's funny.
So I will change that.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.